If you want to understand thousands of years of Indian history, all the empires, the battles, the huge cultural shifts, you could, of course, study the kings and the dynasties, but to really get it, you've got to start somewhere else entirely, with the land itself. Because the story of India, well, it's not just in the history books, it's literally written on the map. I mean, just look at the Indian subcontinent. It's practically a fortress built by nature. You've got the Himalayas up north, this massive, almost impenetrable wall. Then on the sides, the Indian Ocean and the Arabian Sea. For thousands of years, this geography basically created its own separate world, sealed off, letting this incredibly unique civilization just grow in relative isolation. And it's not just me saying this. The historian C. Colin Davies said it perfectly. The impact of geography on history is just clearer in India than almost anywhere else. But, and this is the crucial part, that natural fortress, it wasn't perfect. It had one big, glaring weakness. A single doorway, really, through a series of mountain passes in the northwest. And let me tell you, history was about to come knocking at that door, over and over again. So that brings us to the first huge theme in India's long history. For literally thousands of years, the fate of the subcontinent wasn't decided by who showed up on a ship. No, it was all about who could come through those mountains. And what's wild is just how predictable it all was. Geography basically laid out a red carpet for invaders. I mean, you have these mountains and deserts that act like a giant funnel, channeling any army right along the path of least resistance, straight into the fertile plains of the Indus and the Ganges. It wasn't really a choice for them. It was the only way in, a geographic necessity. And this pattern is just relentless. You see it in 326 BC with Alexander the Great. Fast forward more than 1,000 years, and it's Mahmud of Ghazni doing the same thing. Jump ahead another 500 years, and here comes Babur, the guy who'd go on to found the Mughal Empire. We're talking different people, different centuries, but the exact same geographic playbook. That invasion highway, it was always open for business. So let's take the first really big, documented invasion from the West, Alexander the Great. I mean, his army was legendary, but even he wasn't crazy enough to try and cross the Himalayas. No way. Instead, he did exactly what the geography told him to do. He followed that path of least resistance right through the passes. And just like that, the Indian world and the European world were connected in a massive way for the very first time. Okay, now let's jump forward, way forward, 1,800 years, and look what we see. The exact same pattern. This is Babur's invasion, the one that kicks off the legendary Mughal Empire. And his route, it's identical. Come through the passes, lock down the Punjab, and then make a beeline for the real prize, the strategic heartland around Delhi. It's just proof that geography was still the ultimate general in the field. Okay, so getting into India was one challenge, but geography's influence didn't stop there. Once you were inside this enormous subcontinent, a whole new problem popped up. And honestly, it was even harder. How in the world do you actually govern a place this huge? A place that's naturally divided by its own mountains and rivers? In these two maps right here, they tell that story perfectly. On the left, you've got the Mauryan Empire under Ashoka. This was a super rare moment of almost total unity. I mean, what an incredible achievement. But then you look at the map on the right, and that was way more typical. A fragmented patchwork of rival kingdoms. Because the truth is, in India's long history, unity was the exception, not the rule. So why? Why was unity so incredibly difficult to maintain? Well, the answer, once again, comes down to geography. You have these huge natural barriers, like the Vindhya Mountains and the massive Deccan plateau, that carve the subcontinent into distinct regions. If you were an emperor sitting up in the northern plains in Hindustan, trying to control what was happening way down south, it was just an exhausting, nearly impossible struggle. Geography created these powerful regional identities that just never wanted to be ruled by some far-off capital. So for 3,000 years, this was the basic rhythm of Indian history, right? Invaders pour in through the mountains, and then once they're in, it's a constant struggle to hold the place together. Land-based invasion, internal fragmentation. That was the pattern. But then, at the end of the 15th century, that ancient rhythm was about to be shattered. Forever. I mean, just stop and think about that for a second. For 3,000 years, every single major outside force that shaped India's destiny came overland, through that one single narrow corridor in the northwest. The whole mindset, the entire defensive posture of the subcontinent was geared to deal with threats coming from that one direction. And then, this happens. In 1498, a guy named Vasco da Gama sails his ships all the way around Africa and lands on the coast of India. And in that moment, the entire game changed. Suddenly, those giant fortress walls, the Himalayas, the deserts, they were totally irrelevant. Why? Because a brand new door had just been kicked open: the sea. Those historic mountain passes were completely bypassed. Power wasn't flowing down from the mountains anymore. It was literally washing up on the beaches. Now, this totally new situation demanded a totally new strategy. The European powers, they didn't even try to conquer India the old-fashioned way. They just went around the big, powerful land-based empires in the north. Their playbook was completely different. Control the sea routes, set up fortified ports on the coast, places like Goa, Bombay, Madras, and from those strongholds, start pushing power inland. It was a complete 180-degree reversal of 3,000 years of history. And this revolutionary, sea-based approach, well, it would eventually allow one of those European powers to do something that no land-based invader had ever pulled off for long: achieve total, complete dominance over pretty much the entire subcontinent. You can see the result of that transformation right here. Look at the map on the left. That's 1805. British power is just a few pockets on the coast. They're a sea power, kind of nibbling at the edges of the big land empires. But then, look to the right. Just a little over a century later, the empire that was born from the sea has completely swallowed the land. It is an absolutely stunning demonstration of this new geographic reality. And this is where it all leads. The final map, drawn up by the British as they left in 1947, creating the new independent nations of India and Pakistan. You have to understand, even the lines of partition themselves were profoundly shaped by all these historical and geographic forces we've been talking about, from those ancient invasion routes to the settlement patterns that followed them for centuries. You see, from the strategic importance of a mountain pass to the sheer difficulty of governing a diverse landscape, these fundamental truths of geography, they don't just disappear. They're like an invisible blueprint that history is built on top of. And that really leaves us with one final big question to think about. Where else on our maps today are these ancient lines of geography still quietly drawing the borders of our future?